Okay, hello and welcome. I'm Lloyd Lewis, and today I've got a very special guest on the YouTube channel. I'm interviewing Louise Turnbull. Now, I came across Louise through, I think, because I like On Your Divine page and things, and she recommended or commented on a few of Louise's landscapes, and I just fell in love with them. They're absolutely genius. So, Louise, I really appreciate you doing this. Thank you very much. First question is, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me, Lloyd. I am pretty much self-taught artist, and I worked in health and social care for most of my adult life, but always had a hankering to paint full-time. And it's really just in my early 50s that I kind of got more serious about pursuing that. So yeah, kind of resigned from the day job, gave up the security about just over a year ago now, year and a half, and just went for it, took the leap of faith, and haven't looked back since.
That's awesome. That's got so many parallels with my story as well. I took the leap of faith. I decided last May, that was when I handed in my resignation letter to the school I taught at, and then I just decided that I was going to do two things. I'm a martial arts instructor and I paint, and I'm a portrait artist. Can I ask you, why landscapes? Why do you paint landscapes?
In a way, it's probably a bit of an accident in that, you know, when I was growing up, my parents always took us out for days at the beach, forest walks, you know, they loved gardening. So I was always kind of immersed in the landscape. And I loved horses, was my other passion in life. So I was out riding and always kind of in the countryside. So, you know, I think the sense of connection with landscape is really strong for me. I may kind of delve more into portraiture at some time and other subjects, but for me, it always comes back to landscape.
I would love to see what you do with portraiture. I genuinely would, because I think the way you use, like I said to you before we started the interview, I love the way you use color, and I love the texture that you create. I also think there's some kind of, because I know I don't know much about landscapes at all. I am experimenting myself recently because I don't want to limit myself. But there's the 3/3 rule and things like that. Do you know about this?
Well, as I say, I'm self-taught, so there's lots of rules I'm sure that I am breaking all the time, and I'm happy with that. There is the rule of thirds, I guess.
That's it, rule of thirds, that's it.
Yeah. I have to say I don't think about that hugely. I really work intuitively, so I just kind of follow the inspiration, and I'm not thinking too much about design until the painting progresses.
Sure.
If that makes any sense. So, you know, I'll kind of work on 5 or 6 paintings at a time, and I'll see how they're evolving. And it may be that, you know, I kind of need to think more about making one part bigger than another to give more of a sense of depth or perspective. But I don't really consciously think about that when I'm painting too much.
I love that. I love the fact, I think, I mentioned the rule of thirds because I look at your work and I think sometimes you kind of subvert these rules, and they're just, like I said, your landscapes are just breathtaking. This one outpouring that we talked about earlier on, that we talked about before the interview started, and I just love that. Just the kind of the feel that you generate. You know, I just think that you create that. It's just, yeah, you feel like you're there. You can almost you almost need to put a coat on when you're looking at it, because it's like it feels a wee bit cold when you know. But it's brilliant. Can you tell us a bit about outpouring?
Outpouring is quite an interesting one for me because I tend to be very self-critical, and that was a really rare moment for me when I stood back finishing that painting, and I kind of went, yes, you know, you've nailed it. I really love it. And that's rare for me. I usually walk away and I kind of think, and, you know, I'll ponder something about whether it's finished. But that, I really stood back and went, yeah, you're done. And that painting was quite a good example of how my process works, and that it started life as a landscape, I think, and it was cadmium reds, and I'd been kind of working at this, and then I wasn't feeling it, and I flipped the board upside down, got out the oil paints, got some palette knives out, and I don't normally work with palette knives, so it was a real just, you know, let's just throw this out the window and do something completely different. Obviously I love seascapes, so I've painted waves before, but this had a different feel. It was much more immersive.
It's just brilliant. It really, immersive is a really good word. We're going to talk a little bit about some of your other paintings, and Dark Before Dawn is another one that's a particular favourite of mine. Can you tell us about that one?
That was kind of, I don't normally revisit things, but that was a wee bit of a revisit of one that I did over a year ago, which was Red Storm. And I enjoyed doing that painting. It had a lot of people loving it and a lot of requests for another. So I went back to that idea really. And I just discovered this acrylic medium in glaze, which I'd never used before. So I was really just going to town with this, because you can put down a layer of paint, put down a glaze, and then layer more acrylic on. So I was just enjoying doing that. And that was one. I think I was just about to go on holiday, and I'd kind of left it on the easel. I thought I would probably work it up a bit more. Maybe the dangers of social media, that I put it up on Instagram, I think, and got tons of love for it. And I thought, yeah, actually, it's probably done. Let's leave it there. And that's, as you know, it's a tricky one, when to just walk away and say, yeah, that's done.
It's something that I always struggle with. When is a painting finished? When is it not? And I think there's a saying, finish not perfect, which I really like. You know, I never try, because one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given was, don't try and create a masterpiece, just enjoy what you're creating. You know, so I always struggle. I look at my paintings, and the danger is, if you leave it for a little while, and then you sort of look at it on the wall or something, you think, right, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that, because you've improved. You know, you've improved and you've got better as an artist, so you've seen it with a kind of more intelligent eye, you know, if that makes sense, and more experience. You know, like, I look at it now, and I'm quite pragmatic about it. I think, right, it's done for when, you know, I finished it then, and that's it, it's done, and I'm not going to revisit it, because it's almost like a different artist painting it, you know, going on top of it. And I think it just represents different kind of periods in my artistic career. Another one that I really love of yours is Breathing Space. So absolutely, is brilliant. I just love the color, the texture, and I love the title as well. I think that's just genius. I really do. I think it's really clever. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. Firstly, I can't take credit for the title. My wonderful husband came up with that one.
I met him briefly earlier on. He seemed an intelligent man.
He's a writer, so hey, you've got to make use of your resources. Quite often I'll bounce ideas for titles, and Rob quite often comes up with a cracker.
My wife is the same. She's very clever at stuff like that. So I bow to her superiority and things like that.
Yeah, if you see a naff title, that'll have been me. That I'd actually been feeling a bit kind of isolated before I was doing that painting, and I booked to go on a workshop at a local place, Allen Bank Arts, which, if anybody heard of it, is a really good place. And I went to Claire Beattie, who does amazing trees. She's a fantastic borders artist. So I went along for a bit of fun, really, meet other artists, and Claire gave me a very small reference photo. I mean, it was kind of tiny, and very kindly gave me a massive sheet of paper to work on. So I kind of just worked up a fairly simple design. And yeah, I mean, that painting happened really quickly. It would be a couple hours, I think. Wow. So yeah, I kind of really enjoyed that. And again, that was one, I think because it had to dry, I'd had to come back to the centre to pick it up because it was oils. And I think in the interim, when I came back, I was kind of, yeah, that's done. I thought I might have worked it up more, but it felt, it's a kind of simple design, but very effective.
Awesome. It's absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. And lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about Divine Materials. Can you tell us about that? It's another absolutely gorgeous piece.
Thank you. That, I think I'd done one which we called Dreams of Leaving just before I went to Pittenby March Festival, and I'd been experimenting with brayers. I don't know if you've ever used these.
No.
So so I could grab one to show you, but they're for pushing ink around, really. So they're quite good for pushing paint and mixing it up, and you don't have much control over it. So I'd done that painting, really enjoyed it, done a series of small ones, and I thought, right, let's do a little bit more of this and see what we come up with, and put some gold leaf in it, and kind of played with the sky. I think changed the sky on it. So yeah, just a lot of layers really, and had nothing in my mind other than I really enjoyed those other paintings, so I want to do something on that line. And really, I think the idea of the sense of distance and expanse is really attractive to me. So that's kind of what I wanted to capture.
Yeah, I think you definitely capture that. It's like I said, it's absolutely stunning. I genuinely think your work it's really evocative. It just creates a sense of place, but it also creates a sense of mood as well. And I think it's just, yeah, some of your landscapes are just really, like, I don't see lots of other landscape artists doing what you do. Lots of other landscape artists are very representational, but you give a sense of place, you give a sense of mood, and like I said to you, I think before we started talking when we started the interview with outpouring, I feel like when you look at that, you've got to put a coat on. It's like, it gives you that kind of whole thing. Yeah. So thank you for that. It's a really valuable insight. Hopefully my subscribers will get a lot. I personally feel a little bit inspired to try new things now, just from talking to you. A couple more questions, if that's all right. Which artists inspire you?
I think, the number of artists out there who are inspiring yourself, Lloyd. I've never met you, but your work is absolutely amazing. Anya Devine, who I've worked with, had some one-to-one coaching with. I love Anya's work. Completely different from mine, but just so full of life, colour, amazing. In terms of older artists, kind of Joan Eardley, I really admire her work. I don't know if you've ever come across her, but
no, but I'll be googling that.
Yeah, Google Joan Eardley. Especially her portraiture as well. She did a lot of portraiture of kids in Glasgow and tenements and stuff, and just an incredible range. I particularly love her landscape, but I love all her work. And great, as you say, that kind of sense of place, but something unique about it, and takes you somewhere else, and that's what I really love.
Fantastic, thank you. 2 more questions. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
I think Anya, when I had gone to a workshop with Anya, and it was portraiture, I think, which was not my thing at all, but I just wanted to try something. And her advice when painting was I'll get this wrong, you can make a wild goose tame, but you can't make a tame goose wild. Now, what she meant by that was start out big, taking risks, big movements. Don't come in the way I was taught at school. It's all very precise and tight. So it was kind of, own it. Kind of really be big and bold, take risks, and then you can hone it in, fine tune. But to have that life about it, I think that's your starting point. And I kind of approach every painting with that in mind. To kind of stand back, and go, yeah, I'm going for it.
Well, that's great advice, and you can see that you there's so much energy in your work, the texture, the brush strokes, and everything is just fantastic. I really, you know, and thank you for that piece of advice. That's great. Lastly, what book would you recommend any artist to read?
Oh, I'm rubbish at reading. Do you know, I get lots of art books and I'll look at the pictures mostly. Um, I think when I was making that leap, I think Anya actually had recommended to me The Artist's Way with Julia Cameron, the author. Now, I didn't read all of that book. A lot of it wasn't for me at all, but some of the initial advice was really helpful because it was a lot about the internal struggle that you have as an artist. And I was having that struggle on a daily basis, you know, kind of what you doing, you crazy middle-aged woman, stay with your secure job. This is a complete indulgence. What are you thinking? You know, all of this was going round all the time.
Yeah.
And that book is a really good counterpoint to kind of take you through some of that emotional journey, and you're not alone in it. You know, and artists are kind of struggling with that on a daily basis to some degree.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much. Right. I really appreciate you you agreeing to this interview. I think you, like I said, I think your landscapes are absolutely stunning. Could you tell? I'll put the links in the comments below, in the description below, for the viewers. But could you tell the viewers where they can find more Louise Turnbull paintings and more information about you, your website, social media?
Okay, my website is louiseturnbullpaintings.co.uk. My Instagram is Louise Turnbull Paintings, and Facebook I have the Louise Turnbull Paintings page as well.
Fantastic.
So yes, really appreciate any likes and shares and all of that. It's great.
We'll put all those links down in the description for the video. I really appreciate you agreeing to this to do this interview. It's been really informative. It's inspired me to want to try different things. I might even try some gold leaf at some point. I think that would be quite cool. That'd be interesting. Right. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate that.